is Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
And greetings. Welcome back to Soul Citizens. I am GriffinGamingRPG, and we are back. Today is Sunday, August 27th. We're almost at the end of August, and just 3 days to go, and we are really happy to be here with you guys. And I am joined again with another illustrious group of co-hosts. Joining us today for our subject, the future of AI. But let me introduce to you, not the AI, but the real people themselves. Let me start on my left, or your right, or whichever way it is, to Kalrati. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Griffin, I'm keeping my mic close here. You know, I've learned my lesson, folks. So I'm happy to be here. I'm not taking any chances because I was telling them, Discord's telling me one thing, and they're hearing me clearly now, but I ain't taking any chances.
Well, you know, wait.
Yes,
We don't want you to have we don't want you to hold that mic. Do me a favor, put the mic where it normally is. Let's just do a quick sound check, and let's see what the chat says. Okay. All right. Do you go ahead, Kalrati? Give us a little soliloquy or a song or something so they can hear whether you're cutting out.
All right. Mr. Sandman.
All right,
sing me a dream.
You sound good. Okay, you sound good.
We'll see.
We'll see if it holds out. Cool. If it doesn't hold out, we'll have you pick it up. Envoy70, thank you for that sub. You're kicking us off already. 22 months. Woo. As a faithful follower. We really appreciate that. Thank you for the support. We really do. Thank everybody for being here, by the way. Got to see some shout outs in here. Charles DCI is here. Ryu's here. Pops in Space is here. Abdi's here. Dropped Yoga. Good to see you, Dropped. Good to see you, buddy. I met Dropped at the Chicago Bar Citizen a couple weeks ago. Shitucky's here. Haven't seen Shitucky in a while. Good to see you. The Big Toe of Satan. I have not seen that name in so long. Your name, I never forget it. I never forget that name when I see it. I haven't seen that name in so long. Oh my God. All right. So, anyway, also to my right, to your left, vice versa, whichever way it goes, is the man himself, fastcart FC. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm happy to hear that you're asking for audition for singing, because I love to sing. Bro.
No,
so,
I didn't ask for an audition. I asked for a sound check. Big difference.
Oh boy.
Sound check. Okay. I know you're ready to do the what's it called? America's Got Talent for me. I know you're ready to bust out. I know you've been holding that.
I do want to say I for one welcome my AI overlord. Oh, what was that, Skippy? Oh, yes, magnificent one. Yeah. I was just informed that it's too soon to reveal that information, so just ignore what I just said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we will do that. Oh boy, who is this now? Charles DCI, thank you for the 7th month sub. Thank you so much. And again,
but I will say, I'm happy to do this show today because it's 2 days before Judgment Day, August 29th, 1997.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Time flies by, right? Time flies by. Yeah. Yeah, as you guys see, the title of our our show is The Future of AI. Interestingly enough, we came up with this a while back before the big Chat GPT AI thing became a subject.
I think I came up with this in our first year, maybe.
It was a while back. Yeah, we talked about this, and we've been holding off on it for a while because, as you guys know, CIG has been in this development process of AI, and for most of us who've been around any length of time, when you said AI, what you saw was basically that A on the screen, a big T pose. That was about the most that we saw when it came to AI. So we decided to go back and talk about what CIG has premised to us, not just in the area of AI, but more along the lines of all the, how can I describe this? All the things that will make our quality of life better in the universe, all the different items, computer related, AI related, that will be brought into the game, some of which we have, very few, but then even more that CIG is planning. Some of these you may have never even heard of. Some of them you've seen them, but maybe you just didn't know that's what they were going to do. So hopefully we're going to guide you through this tour of technology, basically. And hopefully you'll learn something from it, and hopefully we'll learn something from it as well. So before we get into that, we want to, as always, mention our charity fundraiser we're doing for St. Jude for Play Live. We began this back in June. You guys have been wonderful in helping us move toward our goal of $10,000 raised for St. Jude Children's Hospital. It's an ambitious goal. We know that, but we know that you all are ambitious folk. Right now, we are at $2,150. We moved up a little bit since Saturday. Thank you, Saturday Giver. I'm sorry I didn't see it until the end of the show, but thank you so much if you're here. And we want to move that dial just a little bit more. Right now, we are exactly 700. Is it 700? $850. Right. $850 away.
$850, yeah.
From our next goal of $3,000. We want you guys to help us get to that $3,000 mark. Kalrati, if we get $3,000, do you remember what happens? Do you remember?
I have no idea. Remind me, Griff.
You got to be here for 12 hours. That's what's going to happen. You got to be here for 12 hours. 12-hour live stream.
Oh, man. I remember that.
Yes,
okay, I'll be ready. I'll be ready, Chad. I'll be ready.
All right. We have to do a 12-hour live stream with guests, with giveaways, all types of great stuff. No, Kai, you better quit bringing that hot tub stream up because it ain't happening.
I have my gold shirt. I could always just have that. It's waterproof. Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, right. So that's for 3,000. Go ahead, fastcart.
My card is not waterproof, so no hot tub.
Not happening, huh? Not happening. Okay. So we want you guys to, first of all, if you have given, as always, we appreciate you for doing that. If you aren't able to give, we completely understand that. But we would ask that you would let people know about the particular fundraiser. They don't have to necessarily be people who watch our show, our stream, but they do know about St. Jude Children's Hospital. So if you got family members, anybody like that, you want to tell them, hey, there's some fundraising being done for St. Jude. Here's a link. The barcode is there. The link is there. We put it on Twitter. You guys send it out to folks. People will give. Believe it or not, people are generous. Whether it's $5, $500, we know people will give. So we really want to encourage you to get the word out. Get the word out. But listen, I would love to see us make that $3,000 thing happen by mid-September. That's what I would love to see happen. If we can do that by first week of September, but let's say second week of September, then we are going to be so pumped to pull off that 24-hour live stream during that same month, and we are going to have a lot of fun with it. So we want to pass that on to you guys, okay? Okay, let's get ready to jump into this. Okay, two things about this show. One, there's going to be a lot of reading, and then there's going to be a lot of pictures. So pictures and reading, but there's going to be a lot of reading. I'm letting you know that now. So we're going to put a link in chat. When we put that link in, we want you all to follow that link because that's where we're getting our information from. Now, as you guys know, RSI's website is not always timely. You know, there's a lot of stuff there that is old as dirt. It's been around since 2014, 2015. Some stuff is fairly new and it's been updated. But let me say this about the website. A lot of times people say, oh, just don't take it for a grain of salt, blah, 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 you know, blah, blah. But for those of you who remember Kalrati, Fastcart, when Death of a Spaceman came out, right? And when we finally got Death of a Spaceman, I would say personally, it's about 85, 90% of what they said. Would you guys agree, roughly?
I agree.
Kalrati, what do you think?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. We're going to say.
No, I was just gonna say I totally agree. So far so good. The time at which they've been able to execute it has not been, the short period of time that we would have hoped. But I think the accuracy of the execution has been along the lines of what they've been
Yeah.
what they've been aiming toward.
And that's one of the oldest docs on the site. So my point is that I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, because it's 8 years old or 7 years old, CIG's not doing it anymore. But I also wouldn't say, hey, whatever you see there, they're going to do 100%. I think that everything was based on vision and what they would like to do. And so we are going to keep that in mind with the subjects that we talk about today, because some of these items that we're talking about are not actively in the game. Even if the items are in the game, their function is not necessarily in the game. So we want you to keep that in mind. Pardon me. Fastcart just subscribed for 24 months. Who's this Fastcart guy? Was it Thrakazog? He gave you a gift? Oh, he gave you a gift sub. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong page. Sorry,
Speaking of which,
Thank you, Thrakazog. Thank you, Thrakazog.
Thank you, Thrakazog. Oh man, really?
Appreciate that as always. Okay. Oh God, 2 hours worth of the Imperial Death March. Just go colossal. The Sith has entered. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this with you guys, and we're going to give you an intro, and then we're going to read to you an interesting disclaimer that CIG put out in relation to this information that we're sharing with you guys. Okay, so in the intro here, it says there are everything from the consoles that you will see lining the command center of the Bengal carrier, the small touchscreen monitors in the cockpit of your ship. These primarily have standard touchscreen interfaces with virtual keyboards, not mechanical. So we know that for most stuff, the interface that they want to create for most of these items are going to be touchscreen based. That's a lot of it. Now, obviously, there's some things that you ain't going to be touchscreen. Like, for example, the monitor or the monitor that's in G-Lock bar, right? If you want to change the channels, I mean, they're not going to be doing that. But they are saying that there is going to be an interface that we'll be doing. Some of you guys know we have that for the Moby Glass. You have it for your MFDs and your ships. That's going to be something that's going to be throughout the game. And all the items most of the items that we're going to be listing are that type of interface. Okay. Now, let me read to you this disclaimer, or I'll give it to Kalrati. Kalrati, could you please read CIG? Now, mind you, this is on CIG's website. We didn't make this up. So go ahead and read that, Kalrati.
All right. So CIG disclaimer. All right. We're going to caveat the hell out of this one. This will not be a complete breakdown of in-game mechanics or technology. We're going to take a stab at fleshing out and explaining some of the tech that's been used in the stories, as well as attempting to address some of the ones you have been asking about in your comments. Please remember, this will be a fiction-based breakdown of Star Citizen technology. First, we're going to list some categories, including some from your comments, and explain the presence of non-presence of the technology.
Thank you for that. So, in other words, don't blame Soul Citizens for anything that we say here today. Because CIG's saying this is stuff that is based on their stories and their lore. But again, some of this stuff is actually entered into the Star Citizen universe. It may not be working, but we do see that it's in there. So we just want you guys to keep that in mind. Okay. Let's go to this very first one here. The wall screens. The wall screen is exactly what it sounds like. A thin, flexible sheet that'd be custom fitted to any size wall and acts as a combination of television and computer. Most touchscreens, but the higher end models can track users' hand commands from anywhere in the room, either through dynamic motion mapping software or infrared remote. This is kind of interesting because they mention this as like a wall screen, but you can use your hands to control it just by moving your hands. Is that what I'm reading, guys? Does that sound like what it said?
I think so.
See where it says the higher end units can track hand commands from anywhere in the room.
So I remember when I first read this, it took me back to, I can't remember the name of the device that came about many years ago in Real. And it was something that allowed you to wrap around, your wrist, and kind of based on your motion, you can that will allow you to, do things like 3D design and those things. So when I read that actually brought me back. Okay, is that something similar to what they're referring to? So that's what I thought.
Yeah.
What they actually
Wait,
meant.
is Kalrati referring to the Nintendo Power Glove? Is that what I'm
No,
hearing? Power Glove?
No, but something,
But it was
similar,
something similar, yeah.
because what I was thinking of, like what we saw in Iron Man, but Iron Man did it in a 3D space versus
Yeah.
here, they're just saying that you can control it from a, you know, with it's not a 3D, screen. And again, I'm not sure where this would be used at. Now, there are some personal areas with large screens. Ships like the 600 have a large screen in their like social area. What fastcart was there? What are you thinking about?
I was gonna say you can do it on the ship, like in like some places have those holographic tables and stuff like that. But if you don't have enough room, you can just put it on the screen.
Yeah, but this is a wall screen. There, we're going to talk about the globes and stuff. And
yeah. I'm saying, but instead of having the hologram, you can do it on the screen. You don't have enough room, like a smaller multi-crew ship, maybe like bigger than a freelancer, or maybe like Constellation size. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to go by, again, what they're saying here. This only the higher end models have the hand control thing. So, and I don't know what that means. Higher end doesn't necessarily mean it has to be big, right? It could be could be a Phoenix, right? I mean, it's a higher end ship.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. I'm thinking exactly for Phoenix.
Like the Phoenix. Okay, so yeah, maybe that's the case. But anyway, these wall screens, we'll have to see what CIG does with these if they ever pop up. Now, we do know wall screens have been implemented in various parts of the game. The old Port Olisar, the almost old Port Olisar, when you go into the area where you call your ships up, has a really big wall screen in there now. It didn't have it back in the day, but there's one there that runs advertising for Crusader. And there are other places where there are these type of screens. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this. You know, we get information for when the, when Invictus is going on. It tells us when the fleet is moving from one location to another. Yeah. Those pop up on wall screens. Okay. But anyway, we'll see. What was something crazy Reload said in here earlier that made me laugh? I can't remember.
No.
No. It was just something crazy he said. It wasn't what he said here. It was something earlier he said. Anyway, I won't hang too much looking for because so much stuff is going on.
Yeah, Ken from Chicago said Samsung has a phone that use hand gestures, and as far as I know, Samsung phone devices still can use hand gestures. You got to set it in the settings. So
Yep, I remember that when I had a Samsung, it took gestures, which was pretty cool. Okay, all right, so that's the wall screens. Let's move on to something that folks are familiar with, and that's the mobiGlas. Fastcart, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago when we did the RSI website show, that a lot of people don't know that the mobiGlas is designed to be an integral part of both the real world and the game world. When we talked about the RSI website, because Pops raised this as a question, he talked about, they were talking about how intuitive the website was as to try to find things on it and why it was difficult. And if you go on the website, if you look in the area, Kalrati, where you're looking for like the star map and spectrum and all that, it doesn't say menus, it says apps.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that that's supposed to be because it ties into the mobiGlas, which is also be driven by apps. And the mobiGlas actually can be they've talked about it being customizable. So you can have different type of apps that would run on the mobiGlas. I'll read this one. One of two types of mobile computing made by Microtech have become the standard of daily life. This smaller handheld device unifies your messaging, spectrum updates, banking transactions, personal communications, etc. It's the futuristic equivalent of the smartphone. Everyone's got one of these things. You will be lost without it. In fact, the UEE almost requires you by law to have one. You won't go to jail for not having one, but the UEE quickly realized that these tools could be incredibly helpful for census taking and general sociological, anthropological studies. We're in the process of designing how the mobiGlas actually looks. It is strictly a handheld like a smartphone, or are there carrier housing for it, like a wrist forearm mount. For the time being, assume that it's a very, very thin rectangular sheet of plexiglass. Now, back in the day, guys, that's what the mobiGlas was supposed to be. Now, the mobiGlas, as you guys know, is similar to what I have on here, a Fitbit. It's not as big as my Apple Watch. It's more like a Fitbit. Okay. Now, I found it interesting about this, guys, this particular item, because the UEE wants UEE people to wear one. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think there's some game related tie-ins there with what happens if you wear your mobiGlas versus if you don't wear your mobiGlas? Will mobiGlasses be hackable? Will people be able to find you if you're wearing your mobiGlas, or not find you if you don't wear it? You guys got any thoughts on that?
They're gonna lock you up if you don't wear your mobiGlas. It's for control. Don't give in, people. These are remnants of the messery gene.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar. I was like, I mean, if the UE tries to make that into law, there's gonna be a whole lot of people saying, no, I'm not gonna do it because UE wants me to. So yeah, there's gonna be a whole lot of tinfoil hat people who say that mobiGlas is controlling them, or it's bad news. So yeah, I could see, I would see them not making a law per se, but I mean, if it's hard, it's like a smartphone, it's hard to get through life without one. So, I mean, they're better off not making a law. But yeah, I would say that if you're on a run, you would take out the battery or power it down so people can't find you, and power it up when you need information or whatever. So yeah, I can see some gameplay elements, but I don't know. Well, currently we don't have a way to power them down, but yeah, we'll see how that goes.
We don't even have a way to take them off. We have a way to change them.
Yeah, we don't have a way to take them off.
And that's just because you're changing the color of them, right? I'm curious as to whether or not this is going to expand, because let's just mind you guys, as we said in our disclaimer, CIG is just talking about this. We do know that this is in game. At this time, it wasn't. Well, when they wrote this up, it was an idea. Now we do have them in game, so at least we can play a little bit with this idea. We know that CIG has talked about them being customizable. Fastcart, if you lived in Levski and you ain't that crazy about the UEE, but the mobiGlas is your way to communicate, transact, and other things, will there be possibly some type of hack?
Or maybe a mod.
A mod? Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. We'll see where they go with this. Yeah, Kalrati, go ahead.
And I can imagine, like, there's different tiers of mobiGlas. Like some of the basic, you have a basic module mobiGlas that not a flagship phone, but then you can go up to a flagship mobiGlas that has all the bells and whistles. It depends on how much money you want to spend on it.
Well, how about this? Remember when we saw the view of Jax when he was in the marketplace at Pyro? What happens if there's some type of contraband type of mobiGlas that you could buy that's, you know what I mean, the outlaws kind of have, that's not tied to the UEE? It costs a lot of money to get it, or modified, right? I mean, or even modified, right? There's a lot of different ways. I'm just saying this could be more than just about, reading a message or calling up your ship, and it could have impact in the game. There could be some negatives too, right? If you're not tied in, there could be negatives too,
And you brought up an interesting point with that video, because Jack McLeod was streaming that whole time.
That's right.
I'm wondering if that's going to be a thing in the future.
Well, remember we talked about that. He was using a mobiGlas to stream, and this is the Mobi 2. If you guys remember, there was a Mobi before this one. CIG did an upgrade when we got at the Frontline store. What's it called? I can't think of the name of the store now. But anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Frontline, yeah.
It's the Frontline, the Apple store. Okay, when we got that, the Mobi 2 came out, which was when they added all the colors and everything. It was supposed to be an upgraded version of the original Mobi. If you've never read the history on the Mobi, when you go there, they do have the history of it at that store. So take a look at Frontline. Yeah, take a look at it when you guys get a chance, okay? But that's the mobiGlas, okay? Now, there is another glass that's in the game, and it's actually called the Glass. I don't know if you guys remember this one. Fastcart, why don't you read that one for us?
Okay, so Glass, the larger of the two models, think of it as an iPad to the mobiGlas iPhone, offers more surface area to work with and a more robust computing power, but otherwise offers similar features as the mobiGlas.
Okay. I'm curious about these. It's in the Frontline store downstairs. They got a bunch of them lined up on the wall. I'm really curious to see, these are handheld pads. Now, there are missions in the game currently. Remember, Kalrati, when you used to go over to do the Kovalex mission, there were those floating tablets that were over there. Some of us may not have connected it, but that's basically what these were. People were able to pull up their email on them, information on them. I don't know. What are some other uses that you guys see? Like, what would be so purpose of having this versus the Moby Glass? I'm curious.
Better resolution when you want to watch content in game. That's one thing I can only say. It is portable, right? So
yeah, it's like a tablet. It's like a tablet.
It's like a tablet. So yeah, it's the same as the real world.
Yeah.
But I think most players would probably just get away with just having a Moby Glass, not bother with glass.
You know what I'm wondering about? Whether or not something like this might be put to use for someone like an engineer, where they're able to see the systems on their ship, how they're running, if they're away from a console. I just wonder if they could tie in things like that, some other reason for having something that's handheld like that. Or like, look at that. Look at what Ken says. Ken, I like that. Ken says the glass could be used for hacking or storing tons of data.
That's
right?
a good thing. Yeah.
Downloading in from data from someplace else. If you go somewhere and you want to hack. Nice one, Ken. Yeah, that's a great idea.
And you can transport the data from one place to another.
Or sell it, right? Here's the tablet, and I can just give you the tablet, and you take it and go what you got to do with it. You upload it where you want, because I know we've got to figure out ways to pass data back and forth beyond the crypto key. Crypto key is okay, but we'll see. I can't read a crypto key. I need something to look at it and I can tell that's what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. You give me a crypto key and it's got pictures of your picnic or something on it. That's not even good. All right.
I would definitely say that these kinds of pads are smart gamified ways of untethering the information from your Moby Glass, especially when it comes to data gathering. Just like Chat had explained, when it comes to interacting with ships, such as what is the data runners again? We have the MSR, and we also have the Drake Herald, right? Apart from scanning and such, how are the ideas going back and forth with regards to downloading the information from somewhere and inputting it for data storage for, in terms of, okay, if you have to transport it from one point to another. So these can be good ways of actually, transferring that kind of information, as it has to do with these data gathering ships as well.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the MSR today, because the MSR is up for voting. So vote for the MSR. People are behind on voting. Okay?
MSR is not going to win, guys. This competition has been.
Wait. What's the MSR running up against? What's it up against?
The Corsair. The Corsair is winning.
Yeah. Yesterday was a turtle.
There may not be a lot of people. I don't know. I mean, the MSR has had its day. I don't know.
Yeah, it's had its day. I know. But I'm MSR all day, every day. So.
No, okay. All I know is I'm glad the turtle won yesterday. That's all I got to say. I'm tired of the carrot. All right. All right. Let's take a look at this next one here. Kalrati, would you read that one? AI and flight computers.
Sure thing. So AI and flight computers, as we've hinted at in a pair of dispatches here and here, there aren't really AI in Star Citizen that will fly your ship. Janus is an exception. While you can set your computer to rudimentary autopilot and to handle other basic functions, flight computers are there to assist the pilot, not take control themselves. Realistically, spaceflight in the 30th century would probably be handled by computers or AI that are capable of making calculations and flying at a level vastly superior to human control and space combat. And space combat would probably happen with drones and between two ships on opposite sides of a system. We're making a stylistic decision to forego that for the rush of those ship-to-ship dogfighting.
Okay, now, I think this is an important statement, because every once in a while, someone will say, well, in the 30th century, they wouldn't be.
Exactly.
And so... in the 30th century, we'd be talking to our ship. In our 30th century, we wouldn't really be having it. Yes. In other words, CIG knows that, and they have chosen to keep us in the 21st century. Okay. So flipping switches, mechanics.
With some changes.
Yeah. I'm just saying, don't get me wrong. It would be cool to get into, okay, here's a comparison. CIG's giving you the best of both worlds. You can get into the Gatak with the Xi'an technology on its little docking ramp, and it'll float up invisibly into your ship. Or you can get into the Drake Corsair and crank them metal handles and go if you want to, and go up that way, okay? But, you know, every once in a while, I keep hearing these comparisons about, well, you know, and it's like, yeah, we know. Ships wouldn't be aerodynamic and wings, and we know, and CIG knows. That's my point, guys. So enjoy what they create. I know sometimes it would be cool to have a flying saucer, and that's something that looked like a World War II fighter. I get it. But just understand that they have done that because they've chosen that for their style. Kalrati, go ahead, fastcart.
But to the point of this description, there are plenty of sci-fi novels, or I haven't seen any other media, but I definitely read some sci-fi novels where it's in the future, and ship-to-ship fighting is controlled by AI because everyone is flying at relativistic speeds closer to the speed of light. Yeah. So it's too fast for humans to handle, but it's just fine for computers to do it. So everything happens in a blink of eyes, and ships can be destroyed, and you won't know it because it's going so fast. So yes, I can see where it's good to read about or maybe watch on TV, but not maybe participate in a game.
Yeah. I mean, you guys already know this. Chris Roberts is a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm sure he has been thrilled and chilled watching the battles where there are 100 TIE fighters against 80 X-Wings and sees everything's lightning fast and speed. But the reality is that for gameplay, you know, they have to put it in a different perspective. And none of us have the lightning reflexes of Anakin Skywalker. Let's call it for what it is. So none of us have the Force. So they have to make it within an aspects of gameplay. Kalrati, I want to touch on this a little bit because most of you guys know master modes are kicking in. And so there are some changes to flight controls that are coming up in this patch that we have. Those of you who've been in 320, you already know there have been some major changes that are coming in there. But the computers are still, it doesn't seem like it maybe, but our ships are still kind of computer assisted, right? With aiming, with flight, all that stuff. Because we don't really think about it. It's such a built-in system that we don't think about when we're moving ailerons and rudders and all this other stuff and thrusters are firing, that there are actually computers that are computing all that information. Right, Kalrati?
Yeah, exactly. For example, one of the changes that was made with respect to the whole, firing system and how quote unquote AI is assisting with it in a gamified sense is the unification of the weapon, ports. We don't really have sized down or downsized gimbals anymore. So what the system is doing based on gimbal versus fixed is actually slowing down until said changes or other changes are made. It's actually slowing down the rate of fire for if you choose to use auto gimbal now versus if you choose to switch to keybind for fixed. So, we don't know if they're going to actually, for example, use AI for AI blades, for example, to instead of attaching that to a keybind, if that's going to be something that's going to be integrated using AI or some kind of AI blade in the future. But, this is the direction that they've chosen to show the difference between auto gimbal and fixed. So with regards to AI, is that something that they're going to integrate into a gamified sense that you can change? And as a result, is that something that someone can disable and hack? We don't know, but that's one of the examples that possibly can be affected by AI.
Absolutely. So just you guys will know those ships that we play in game are what they call fly-by-wire. It's basically however you move the stick or whatever, the ship responds to you. I feel good. Thank you, Reload. 17 months. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. But we do have flight computers in our ships. But as CIG said, that they don't have it where, NPCs and things are going to be flying your ships for you per se.
Yeah. I was going to say real quickly that we have quantum travel. That's controlled by computation. So you wouldn't want a human trying to compute that all by hand. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, you might fly through the planets a little too much often if you did. So yeah, that's a good point, Fez.
More often than we do now. Put it that way.
Yeah. All righty, let's do this next one here. This is a long read here. Genetic engineering and eugenics. This has not been extensively discussed yet. since it falls primarily in the fiction and doesn't directly apply to the game yet. Thank you, Citizen Var. Appreciate that.
5.
Oh, was it 5 gifts?
Yeah, thank you, Citizen Var.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Maybe there will be in some kind of resource to be utilized from this. Don't know. We've been running with the notion that there has been significant advances in genetic engineering, mostly used to minimize any kind of genetic predispositions that could be harmful or fatal. There's probably a money-based sliding scale on this, i.e. a poor family in the slums of Prime might have access to only the most rudimentary gene coding for their children, while the more affluent could probably pick and choose genetic attributes, traits of their unborn children. Eugenics, selective breeding, occurs, but that term itself still carries a bit of a stigma to it. The UEE doesn't support eugenics policies, even though it does support a variety of genetic engineering programs and grants. When confronted about this apparent hypocrisy, watch the wizardry of spin to slip out of it. So this idea of eugenics, we don't have anything in the game for that, anything about how you will come back. We know that right now with Death of a Spaceman, there's this aspect of your DNA has been saved and you're cloned and you're brought back. But there isn't anything that says you're going to be able to, come back green-eyed or come back huskier or taller or shorter. There's nothing like that in the game, as far as we know. Now, what were you going to say, fastcart?
They have said in the past that, you know how you mentioned death to the spaceman, like you have a certain amount of life before you have a permanent death. But they have said in the past that there may be a way to add more life to your character by paying more money or having better care or whatnot. But we don't know. That's not in the game yet. But
Okay.
they said that we may be able to extend the life of our character.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that, or I don't remember that, or I don't know it. Okay.
Yeah, it was one of the 10 for the chairman. It was a long time ago. But
yeah, if it's 10 for the chairman, but that's good to know, though. Okay. And we'll see if they go that way with it. Okay. But for right now, there's no eugenics, nothing along those lines. It is interesting that they talk about a money-based sliding scale, though, to Fastcart's point. Maybe if you live someplace affluent like Orison, or let me say Terra, someplace like that, you'll be able to get better quality care versus if you live in the muddy slime hole of Hurston. I just say that because Colossal's here. If you just live in some other places, you may not be able to get the same level of care, even though Maria Pure of Heart does give decent care. I won't throw rocks at Maria Pure of Heart. Okay, so that's the thing on eugenics and genetics. Cloning. Fastcart, do you want to take that one?
Cloning. The biotech industry has developed cloning to the point where it primarily functions as a way to regrow damaged organs for immediate transplant. Technically, the technology exists to clone an entire person, but it's tremendously expensive and a vastly impractical endeavor. There are two main reasons for this. First, while the physical can be replicated, memories and experience aren't part of the process. So if a 30-year-old man wants to clone himself, the clone is basically a newborn child in the body of a 30-year-old. Second, scientists discovered that clone bodies become susceptible to new and devastating disease that otherwise leaves humans unaffected. So the whole body process technically exists, but nobody uses it.
Okay. So let me ask you guys, CIG has, what's the word? They've, what is it called when you go in, retconned a little bit? Process of this. I've always wrestled with this idea of that when we come back, how our memories and stuff are transferred. And I don't know if we just have to kind of treat that as hand wavium.
I think so.
Is that pretty much what it is?
Yeah. EVE Online has a similar mechanic, and it's mostly hand waving, but it's stuff based or whatever. The faster than light travel for information to transfer the memory from the point of death into your new clone. So yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I know that there's this whole thing about if you go into the new body, there may be some loss of reputation. There's some aspects of things that you retain. And I know if you want to get real scientific, I get what they're talking about, diseases and all that stuff. That's if you're taking it to the full length of science. But I am just kind of curious. Yeah, you know what? We need somebody who's like a microbiologist or somebody who can come on and talk about that subject because, I'm trying to keep it within the game context, but also so that it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And there's a lot of it for me that just isn't. It's just not. Clicking.
The whole, yes, it's 30th century. Maybe they know a way to transfer memories instantaneously from the point of your death to, but how does that even work? Does the information travel through your mobile glass? Is that why you need a mobile glass?
I don't know.
It won't be updated?
I would almost be satisfied, Fastcart, if they said if Kalrati dies, that we have to take his body back and they take his brain and put it in his clone. I'd even live with that. No, I'm just saying, I would live with a brain transplant faster than I would with moving memories. That's just on a whole nother freaking level.
Hey, maybe that's why the movie glass is law. You need it.
Maybe so. I don't know. But anyway, cloning is I don't know. Is what we do now cloning? Is that what it is when we come back? It's DNA based.
Yeah, they have a body ready for you in case you die, I believe.
It's DNA based.
But you call it an imprint.
Yeah, it's an imprint. You come back, but you come back looking like what you were before. You don't come back llooking different. So I guess it is.
No,
regeneration is cloning. Go Mobs.
Whenever the game goes live, they're supposed to if you have it, if you suffer a severe trauma, that could carry over because the body remembers. Oh, you remember the trauma, what happened, but that's not in the game yet.
Yeah, see, GoMob says regeneration is cloning, and I agree. I get that. I'm just trying to, again, I'm looking at the science of it too much, right? First of all, your body coming back instantaneously is an issue for me right there. Unless they've got a bunch of your body sitting in some harvester, somewhere waiting to be jumped into. Yeah, I know Reload. So Soylent Green is people. I know Reload. Okay. All right, we're going to move on past the whole cloning conversation and go to another one that is kind of popular. Kalrati, why don't you go ahead and hit that one there?
All right. So consciousness transfer / robots. So robots in Star Citizen are more utilitarian than anything. They are drones that will help repair your ship. Sweeper bots will spray wash the streets of cities and collect the trash. They aren't tremendously lifelike robots, however. Perhaps it is due to humanity's poor history with AI or the uncanny valley, but we want there to be a visible divide between humans and robots. Robots are tools, not people. Therefore, there isn't really a big public desire to transfer a consciousness into a robot shell. Is it possible? With all the advances in processing speed and size, computers can store vast amounts of data and make trillions of decisions per second. With that being said, humanity still has been unable to unravel the brain enough to replicate the emotional decision-making processes that make us human.
Okay. Robots. Yeah, robots.
I have a quick question. Does everyone that knows what uncanny valley is now, right? Because that's the term that came up a decade or a couple of decades ago. Everyone is familiar with that term.
Go ahead and share it. Go ahead and share it.
Okay, so I looked it up real quick, and the uncanny valley is a term used to describe the relationship between human-like appearance, robotic object, and the emotional response it evokes. In this phenomenon, people feel a sense of unease or even revulsion in response to human or robots that are highly realistic.
Yep. And we've seen that. That actually happens. People freak out when they see a robot that looks too human. They freak out, right?
Or not just too human, but there's something off, and it's like, what's going on?
Right, that's what I'm saying when they know. Now, let me ask you guys this. It's an interesting part of science fiction. Science fiction usually dictates that there is a fine line when it comes to robots or androids, that there have been some cases where robots and androids have proven to be beneficial. But then there's also been those times where something goes wrong. Is that because of human failure or human fear? What would you pick in that area? Do we depict them because we fear the idea of them being equal to or better than? Or is it because there's a reality that because humans can make mistakes, we could possibly do something that would actually make robots maybe not a great thing. And you can think about everything from movies like Blade Runner, Star Trek. I mean, you've got Benevolent, Malevolent, you've got all these different examples. And
Skynet.
Yeah, Skynet. Yeah. Anybody got any thoughts?
I would say throughout the development and evolution of human history, right? For as long as we remember, the success of our development has always come at the result of any kind of violence or threats or wars in terms of territorial dominance.
Mm-hmm.
Since we cannot really draw reference from any other civilization that has seen success without the integration of violence or territorial dominance, I think that is what that fear of having another species creates that kind of fear within us, because we don't know if that is fundamental to the evolution of an intelligent species. We don't know if that dominance, that territorial desire to, dominate or create, and of course, as a byproduct, violence that may come with it. We don't know if that's a fundamental factor in the life evolution equation. Yeah. So I think that's, as a result of that, we always have to consider, and we always fear, okay, what if they take us over? And what if they, through wanting to take us over, or even share things with us, or even have a higher, caliber of whatever, like in terms of their superiority, what if that also comes with violence? Because we don't know, we don't have any other evidence to show that that's not needed.
Yeah, all I want to say is humans are imperfect beings, so anything we make will be imperfect. So yeah, I mean we can try to program in all the safeguards, all the first laws, or first, second, and third laws of robotics and everything in that. But something inherently will go wrong because it'll be imperfect, and despite our best precautions, best intentions, what have you. So that's my thought.
Yeah, it's an interesting prospect. There's we can go to the level of computing, robots, AI, and we've had some very deep conversations in our Soul Citizens After Dark about AI about a couple months ago. We went a long time, and everyone, there's excitement about AI and robots and this stuff, and then there's like the people like me who have a lot of trepidation about some of it, and it has nothing to do with the trepidation toward the technology. It has way more to do with man's handling of that technology, where I have a real fear. For those of you who remember some older films that I grew up on, without even going to the point of an android, something as simple as War Games was one of the first things that raised the brow around the world, actually. But literally, the movie War Games went to the White House. The president at that time asked, could something like this really happen? And the military said, yeah. Okay. But then there's science fiction. Most of you guys are familiar with Philip K. Dick's film, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is what the movie Blade Runner came out of. And Blade Runner was always a very philosophical movie for me, because they had created these androids that were so good that they were using them basically as worker slaves, but they had gotten to a point where they were at a point where they just they were aware of their existence. They became aware that they existed, and then they found out that they only existed for a certain amount of time. And to your point, Kalrati, they wanted to exist longer. That's all they wanted, but that wasn't such a great thing. Yeah, they became self-aware. Thank you, Ken. That's the phrase.
And Griffin, I'll do you one better than War Game. We can go all the way back to 1960 or 2001, Space Odyssey. Hal was, he was one of the first ones in movie media that I know of that, did something like that happen.
Yeah, 1967, Stanley Kubrick's 2001. But again, we found out later that was because of human error. There was nothing wrong with Hal.
Exactly.
But it was because humans did something that made Hal mess up. So that's the thing,
We're spoiling a 50-year-old movie.
No. We didn't. Yeah, but right. But yeah, that's true. It's 50 years old. Yeah. But my point is that, the issue of how humans deal with technology is why it gets banned. It's not that the technology is bad, but humans have frailty. and sometimes that frailty translates into what we produce, and we just don't know what the outcomes can be. So, okay. Yeah, 2010, Ken, one of my favorite films. Great. There was a great way to cap off the first one, so I enjoyed that film. Okay, let's move on past the consciousness and the robots and hit our next one here. Cybernetics. Without the cultural push for lifelike robots, all that design and brain power has gone into cybernetics and incorporating technology to the human anatomy. Like most things in life, this is also on the sliding scale of cost and quality. If you want a replacement arm that works well, doesn't explode, and looks lifelike, you'll have to pay for it. Are there other cybernetic augmentations, upgrades that could be purchased outside of necessity, such as you want cybernetic eyes because it offers advanced targeting or something, or auto injectors to boost your reflexes? For the fiction, I would say, sure, it's a natural extension of cybernetic replacement. CIG did a piece on this a while back where they actually showed us a lot of their concept art for cybernetic limbs. They showed us arms and legs. They showed us a whole variety of different types and everything. Some of them had like a foot that looked like a tractor. Other ones had more natural looking human form to them.
Yeah, the missing giver, Rico, who has an artificial leg. So,
she has an artificial leg. Yeah, absolutely. I think, is the guy in the, that was down in Levski, did he have a bad arm? Maybe not. I don't know. I thought there was somebody else who had Rico. Yeah, Rico. That was Rico.
Yeah,
in Bataglia. That was the one down in the room down there in Levski. And I thought there was somebody else.
Twitch had the artificial eyes.
Twitch Twitch has the eyes, the lenses in her eyes. So, but CIG has said this. They've talked about the limbs as far as replacement for when you're injured. But I think that they put a kibosh on the idea of being able to do it to enhance yourself, if I'm remembering correctly. And if anybody in chat remembers,
it's not available to the players as far as I know. Yeah, they want players to suffer, especially through death with baseman, to suffer casualty or something wrong with the leg or arm or something like that because of something happened in the previous death.
They don't want you to willingly make yourself the $6 million man. If it happens,
or
due
Darth
to injury.
Vader.
Yeah, or Darth Vader. Yeah. So, and there's only so much of that you'll be able to do too before your body can take it. You can't, have 2 arms, 2 legs. They're not going to let you go that far. But it will be interesting to see to what level they do that fastcart. And also, I like the fact that they say that you can go from something that's very rudimentary and exposed to something that maybe looks very, natural and human and lifelike. So it should be interesting. You guys got anything else on this one for the cybernetics?
I would say, at least in terms of documentation, some of the things that they've talked about make some good sense. Right now, when we get injured, the injuries, I would say, as it pertains to death of a spaceman, it degrades relatively quickly, right? Compared to what we would expect it to happen as it relates to cybernetics. We have the tier 1, tier 3, tier 2, tier 1 injuries. Right now, every bed that supports respawn, we don't have that, with regards to the Ibrahim sphere, we don't have the imprint viability score that is supposed to reduce gradually, depending on the type of Ibrahim sphere that you respawn from. So as a result, you wouldn't see every time you respawn, you still have a tier 3 injury or a tier 2 injury. When that happens, maybe that's when you can have the option of replacing a tier 2 or tier 1 injured leg that can no longer really be repaired, at least based on the gamified sense, with a cybernetic arm or limb. So as the death of a spaceman or that that degradation of the injured leg spans out longer, the more we live our lives in those things, that's where we'll start seeing, the impact of having that prompt to replace our tier 2 or tier 1 injuries, even after a respawn with the cybernetic arm or cybernetic leg.
One of my fears is that when the game actually launches and, it's after alpha, beta and everything, the game is actually real and everything, it's like persistent and permanent. I'm going to have such a target on my back that I get taken out in the first week and I'll be the 10,000 credit man. And that, because, that first week is probably going to be rough in my opinion.
I don't know.
Distance point
You know
of
what?
view, the
Fastcart, I know a lot of people say that about the game, but I'm noticing the tone is changing a little bit more, and it also depends on what you're doing in the game. I still think that the first week in the game, there are going to be some people that are going to go out and do a whole lot of shenanigans, but I think that they're also going to find that it's going to be very costly to do those shenanigans. And I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a target. I think that people are going to be
It probably will be costly, Griffin, in that first week, but I don't think it'll be enough people who cares until like maybe the second or third week.
But it's a minority. That's a minority. You really find out that the people who really are out in the verse playing right now are a minority of players who start stuff. And you got to think about it this way too. By the time you're talking about, there's going to be multiple systems. Right now, everybody's compressed in Stanton, right?
You're right.
But later on, because of things like the UEE law, all these other things that'll be in place back then, there's going to be a lot of other places that are easier to do things versus other things. And I don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there aren't going to be players doing things, but I just think that it's going to shift. I think that when everything's in place, players are going to be more about wanting to do because there's something to do. A lot of the stuff that happens in the game now happens because for a lot of players, there's nothing to do. And so it's very easy to, you know what I mean, to hang out at Porto and shoot everybody because there's just nothing else to do, you know. But that's later. But we'll see. You know, we'll see. I think you're going to get in the game and you're going to be all right. I don't think you're going to have to worry about it. Let me say this. I also thought was interesting was talking about the quality of the limbs. They mentioned about how if you get a cheap one, it might blow up on you. That's kind of interesting. And I don't know if that means like if you're in a battle and you get shot at it, there's a better chance that it could either fail on you.
It'd be like that scene in Total Recall where the head explodes.
Yeah. That would be pretty messed up if you die from your cybernetic arm, right?
2 weeks.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. You can get a warranty on it. All right, FC will give you this one here. How about that one?
Jump point and FTL travel. We are sticking to jump point as the only real method of covering massive distances. The other races have their own versions of the technology, but they are all basically similar conduits of transportation. There is an internal discussion about how far past the reaches of the system you could travel, but based on the requirements of the game, you won't be able to slow burn from Earth to Kosar. Could you have a character in your fiction try? Of course. But after the Artemis, would it be wise?
Okay.
And I remind me what the Artemis is.
That's a ship in lore, if I'm remembering correctly, but I don't remember what the deal was with the Artemis. Maybe somebody in chat remembers. I know
it's
Jade's
not familiar.
in there.
I read it once, but I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
It was the first interstellar ship built for long distance constant.
There we go. Thank you. Here's something interesting. There have been players in the game who have slow boated, even in Stanton. I remember way back when, the first person, I don't remember who they were, but they slowed boated from Grimhex to Port Olisar. And it was a big deal. I think it took them like 7 hours, something like that, at full speed to travel. And there have been some people who have, gone all the way to Stanton's star. I don't know if anybody's ever crossed the entire system. Do you guys know if anybody's ever tried to go all the way across the system for the furthest point to the other?
Anyone tried, but I would not be surprised. I mean, there's achievement like that in almost every game. Like EVE Online, there's a person who visited every system in EVE Online.
Yeah.
Elite Dangerous, someone traveled from the outer realm into the inner realm, and it took them months. I forget how long it took, but yeah, every game has some kind of not a player corporate or official achievement like that, but just a bragging right.
Yeah. Star Helix says in order to do that, you need no 30Ks for a week. It's probably
exactly.
True.
Not wrong.
It's probably true. Yeah. But I know some people have tried and then failed. I know the people who went to, I think when they went to the Stanton Star, they had that happen. A 30K happened, but they were able to pick it up because they saved. It was something weird. But anyway, right now, as you guys know, jump points are the main way. I am still curious, Kalrati and Fastcart, I'll put this to you because I know we talked about it in the past. With the pyro, the two pyro examples that CIG gave us. The very first one, we saw them use a gate. They used a mechanical device that usually gates are there to stabilize a wormhole versus creating one. And then we saw later where they actually showed us the natural phenomenon wormhole, the big one, the big cloud, right?
Right.
What do you guys think? Do you think CIG is going to incorporate both of those, or do you think they're going to default to just the big atmospheric one? Because I used to read books about gates, and you guys remember the movie Stargate? Well, there was a book called Stargate back in the day, but it wasn't the gate like what we saw on the TV show. It was an actual man-made gate out in space, like what we have in Eve, fastcart, where you had these mechanical devices.
The Expanse, maybe.
Yes. But I was saying Eve because, well, I figured people played Eve. But yeah, the Expanse too. Yeah, but there's a mechanical device that allows jumps to take place as well. I'm curious. Go ahead.
No, I was there. Specify the question again. I'm sorry.
Well, do you think that CIG will incorporate both or just one?
I think both. They'll have natural ones, and I think most of the official ones, the people can go through system and system. They'll probably have a physical one or a mechanical one. The people that will stabilize it and make it more permanent. But I mean, the CIG has said for exploration, new gates will come and go, and that's part of their exploration. You may find a worm or a gate or not a
jump points. You mean jump points
that goes between maybe a shortcut.
Well, that happened in Eve. Systems. Remember, we would have wormholes that would appear but you never knew how long they'd be there, and you always run the risk. Half-life. Yeah, you'd run the risk of going through and maybe not being able to come back.
It's like that one Star Trek TNG episode where the Ferengi got stranded.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with jump points in the game. Oh, by the way, let's talk about the technology here because we didn't talk about this. Some of you know this, some of you may not, but to go through jump points, you are going to need not a quantum drive. You're going to need a hyperdrive. The quantum drive is what gets you across the system. That's what we use right now. But some of you know your ships actually have an area for this drive built into them, or it's supposed to have them in there. But there's another component that you will need to make these jumps. Some ships have them, some ships do not have them. So just be aware of that when you're purchasing your ships. If you're looking to jump, you need to make sure that you have something that will definitely have a jump drive versus a quantum drive. Okay, a jump drive versus
something like the Warden, the Vanguard series. They're supposed to be long distance, not courier, but long.
They're long range fighters. They're long range fighters. I don't know if they have a jump drive, a jump drive. I don't know. They're fighters. I don't know. Yeah, some of you guys may know which ones. Does anybody know? Does the Warden have the capability to do wormhole jumps? Because I don't know.
Oh yeah, it does. It does. So it does.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It does. Okay, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so I think it's more so the snub fighters that.
Yeah, those are screwed. Yeah. Like the Merlin and the Archimedes. No.
No, I don't think it's just snub fight. Okay, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Can a Gladius do a wormhole jump?
I think so.
Woo! Okay, I'm curious. I don't know.
I'm not sure about
I'm not saying it can't. I just want to know. Because see, a long range fighter to me says that it can go across the system a long way. Shady Face says yes, it can. If they use the example from BattleTech,
I would say anything like Vanguard side and above could do.
All right.
I'm not sure about.
Okay, well here's the deal. If y'all see a jump drive in them ships, then the answer is yes. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Okay, Gladius has a small jump drive, Admiral Kusanagi says. Okay. All right, long as it's got a jump drive.
No, that's supposed to be different from the quantum drive, right? They're not confusing the two.
Yes, it is not a quantum drive. It's a jump drive.
Yeah.
Jump drives just mean you can jump on your own, but any ship can fly. Oh, yeah, any ship can fly through a jump gate.
Yeah.
Also said Gladius, yeah.
But even though it can jump, how many jumps can it actually do?
That's the question. How much fuel does it use?
I don't know. Okay, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I know quantuming. I no questions about quantuming and no questions about hydrogen. I
mean, you don't want to make a long jump between systems and then get stranded because I know there's no way to refuel.
There was
but it will happen.
There was a big stink when the Pisces came out because the Pisces did not have a jump drive in it, and people kept saying, that the Pisces was supposed to be the scout with a Carrack that could go through a wormhole and come back and report on stuff. Now, that's what people were saying. I don't know. I got to go back and look at the old Carrack paperwork. But I am curious about whether or not some of these ships have jump drives. I don't know all these ships because some of them I have. I know the ones I do have them. Snubs don't have room for a jump. So wait. Okay, Shady, I see what you're saying, but snubs don't have room for a quantum drive either. You know, that's what I always hear about those ships. They don't have room for quantum drives, which is why you can't jump across systems. But I'm talking about going through a freaking, you got to be able to navigate through them, guys. There's a nav computer that you have to go through a wormhole. So all I'm telling you is look in y'all ships and find out what you got. That's all I'm saying.
Recheck your fleet.
Check your fleet so you ain't left behind in the dust. Okay. I know I'm starting a whole bunch of stuff here in chat, but I'm just kind of stirring the pot. Okay, I'm stirring the pot. I know I'm stirring the pot. I'm gonna leave y'all alone. People like, man, I got to go melt my ship now. Okay. Let's talk about 3D printing and replicators. FC, this is a long read. You want this one?
Sure. When approaching the technology of 3D printing replicators. When approaching the technology of Star Citizen, we wanted the universe to be filled with things. That's a weird statement, sure, but in order to have a dynamic economy with supply, demand, need, and resources to be mined, transported, we couldn't have a universal box that could generate anything and everything. The classic example is the replicator from Star Trek. Definition via wiki, replicator that can create any inanimate matter as long as the desired molecular structure is on file, but it cannot create antimatter like lithium, platinum, or any living organism of any kind. It's probably not realistic to ignore the inclusion of a replicator type technology in the future, especially considering massive application 3D printing is already capable of offering. It's a stylistic and economic decision to not to include it. As stated earlier, there's a dynamic economy to feed, and it will be hungry. If classic replicator existed, factories wouldn't need resources flown in. They would go to the industrial side, tech in a box, and punch in whatever they needed.
Okay. This is going to be interesting because I know fastcart, you are really excited about having your Endeavor, having areas to do like workshops and stuff like that. I know the Carrack has got a repair shop in it. And I am curious as to, you know, when you say repair, how does a part or something get fixed? And maybe 3D printing is a means for that to happen. Replication, though, maybe replication is something that's just done on a small scale, not on a large scale. And maybe that makes it functional, but I don't know. What do you guys think about this thing, 3D printing and replicating in the game?
So I honestly think that as it has to do with the video game, Alpha UEC, or rather the money, it needs either, however you look at it, it either needs more value or less value. More value where it has more use in it, in terms of its a relationship with the resources in the game, or less value where there's more value in the resources that you actually use. I say that because when it comes to the current state of the game, we don't have as much use in terms of using UEC. When you actually put in things like what you mine, what you gather, what you loot, being able to either break those things down into simple materials and use those for crafting, replication, even, for example, mining resources or salvaging resources to be able to use them to repair your ship, or even contribute it to reclaiming your ship at a faster time because you have more resources. I think that is where the true value also will come in, to give more value to what UEC is, and in addition to the economy, to be able to access and utilize these resources on a much more grander scale.
So let me ask you this question then. Is another driver for value, like in I keep referencing Eve. But in Eve, if you wanted to have a certain ship built, you had to not only say, I want this ship built, you had to get the resources for it. You had to get the blueprints for it. And like they gave this example about how in Star Trek, as long as there was the molecular information was there, something could be replicated. Do you think that, like someone mentioned in chat there, like the Vulture right now is able to create the multi-tool for you?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the resources that it uses is just the resources from scraping a ship, which that's a big stretch. You know what I mean? There's a lot of hand wavium there for that because it's an electronic device that comes out
It's
working.
magic.
Yeah, it comes out working. But that's okay, you know. But do you think that this aspect of 3D printing and replicating could become a thing where instead of just getting the scrapings off a ship, you literally do have to bring in some other items to be able to craft and make some things, right? Like in that repair shop, for example, maybe you can create the casing for something, but if you need the electronics, you've got to have the parts for the electronics in order to make it work, you know?
You need the ingredients.
Yeah,
You need the ingredients. You need the blueprints. And that is where I feel that we have a state in the game where the value of UEC is driven by resources and not the other way around. If you want to get something, there's more value in resources versus the value in UEC. You use the UEC to make in some way or contribute to the use of the resources to get to what you want.
Okay. All right, fastcart, you cannot have a Whammer burger just replicated on your ship. You have to go and buy one. All right. No infinite whammers. No infinite whammers. Okay. All right. Last but not least, and we're going to take a shift here in the show. And this is talking about things that are, well, a rough starting list of tech that's pretty illegal in most governments' eyes. Now, you guys know when you go into the different jurisdictions, they will tell you things that are illegal. But on the technology side, here's some things that they did list. Gene warfare, anything that could easily be used for genocide, genetic augmentation, vat-grown super soldiers, balloon animal engines. I don't know what that is.
What is that?
If anybody knows, I've been trying to figure out what that is. And I know there's some real sci-fi geeks in the channel who could probably tell us what that is.
The only thing I can think of is like, you know, an animal that's grown quickly and is disposable for warfare. That's the only thing I can think of.
I know balloon animal engines is farting. Thank you, Ken. We appreciate that. I don't know what that is. And then synthesizing black holes. Now that's interesting.
Yeah. Or antimatter.
Yeah,
I can imagine antimatter.
Yeah, for some of you people who don't believe in places like CERN, that would be probably something that you'd be thinking about. But anyway, those are interesting things that they have there for technology that is like, don't do all that stuff. Okay. Good to see you, prisoner. How are you? All right. Weapons of methane destruction. Okay. Okay. All right. WMDs. All right. Okay. Real quick, gang. Let's take a quick break. We mentioned to you guys earlier that we're doing our fundraiser, our charity fundraising for St. Jude Children's Hospital. We want to run a spot for that real quick, and we're going to talk about it real quick, and then we're going to get back into the second half of the show. So let's take a quick look at that.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and YouTube are teaming up to help end childhood cancer.
In September, supporters from across the nation come together during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month to raise money for the kids of St. Jude.
And that's when YouTube gamers will be posting videos and live streaming to raise funds to support the life-saving mission of St. Jude.
At St. Jude, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because all a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Money raised also supports the research that leads to groundbreaking medical discoveries that St. Jude freely shares around the globe.
I can only imagine as a parent the relief that they feel when someone like St. Jude steps in.
I think it's a really good lesson for us to realize that we need to do more, and we can do more.
It is a huge step in the right direction, a huge step in helping just people and giving back.
It's all for good, and we have a responsibility, a social responsibility to help out.
Find your favorite video or live stream during St. Jude Play Live on YouTube for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and donate to this amazing cause.
Your support will help St. Jude further its incredible mission.
Finding cures, saving children.
Let's end childhood cancer together.
All right, we can do this thing together, y'all. This is where we are right now. We are at $2,150. I would love to see us get to what should we go to tonight, guys? What should we go to? What should we ask for? 2,200? No, 20. We can go higher than that. 2,250. 2,500 would be excellent, guys. 2,500 would be excellent tonight if you guys can get us there tonight, because we're shooting for that $3,000. But we'll take 2,250 at a minimum. 2,250 at a minimum. 2,500. That would be awesome. That'll get us closer to our $3,000 mark. We're going to have such a great time when we do this 12-hour live stream. It'll be our first 12-hour live stream. Kalrati says he is ready. He'll be here for 11 of those 12 hours. So. He'll be here for 11 of those 12 hours.
I will write a monologue just for this show, okay?
So really, if you guys can, please give toward the thing. The link is in the fast card. If you could put the link in one more time. I'm going to put that link back in there for you guys for the fundraiser. Send it to people, even if you've given. If you haven't, just send it to some folks and let them know to check it out. We really do want to see this money be able to given to help out families and children with cancer at St. Jude Children's Hospital. And as always, we appreciate you guys for all that you have done already and everything that you're going to do in the future. And we're going to have some guests come on, like my good friend who I see in chat, Star Jump Grim. Hey, Grim, good to see you, buddy. You are going to be invited to come on our show that day. I'm letting you know now. You only got to come on for half hour, but I'll give you details later. But we've got a lot of great friends in the Star Citizen community who I've already talked to who will be excited to come on board and cheer you guys on as we help raise more money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. So again,
wants to know whether or not the joke man will work during the 12-hour live stream.
You better have a lot of coins because Fastcart's going to be ready to roll. I can tell you that. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. So again, we're at the $2,150 mark. We want to be able to push toward that $3,000 mark. So again, thank you guys so much for all that you are doing for St. Jude Children's Hospital. Okay, let us move. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I know you want to go forward to the next thing, but Jade gave us some really good information about the previous topic regarding the warfare stuff. She said that antimatter is a thing in Star Citizen because they outlawed nuclear weapons. So they have antimatter because evidently, according to Jade, they don't cause the half-life that the people, the area that's been bombed, people can go back to living inside it.
Yeah,
so
and I
that's
think
why they have they outlawed nuclear, but you have antimatter.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Bengal carrier runs on something weird like that because it can go like 20 years or it goes some really long period of time without being refueled. If anybody remembers that, the Bengal carrier has this really unique thing. It's one of the only ships that does that. I can't remember where I saw that at, but I'll find it. Okay, well, thanks, Jade. We appreciate that. Let's see. Let's go ahead and jump into our next part. Now, this is the tasty stuff that people have either seen, heard about, talked about. We're going to give our 2 cents and our thoughts on this stuff, okay? Go Mop. Okay. Let's see if people know what that is. I'm not even sure if people know what that is. You guys think people know what that is?
I didn't even know what that is. What is that?
I mean, I cheated, but yeah,
you cheated. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what that is without cheating. Put it that way.
You cheated. Okay. Now, those of you guys, the space toaster. Thank you, Reload. We appreciate that. Let's start off with this one here. Kalrati, why don't you kick that one off for us?
All right, sure thing. So the MemVio dedicated memtrace computation architecture supports concurrent returns across a wide range of active functions to allow the MemVio to greatly increase your ship's moment-to-moment data output.
Now, this is the only item that I've seen that references a blade. These are down. Everything we're going to show you guys now is down in the frontline store, down in the lower level. Okay, so if you want to go see this stuff, if you haven't seen it in a while, there are descriptions down there for these items. And so there's a couple of things that we're going to show you, but we just want you to see this. Now, they say this is a booster blade. Kalrati, computations, architecture support, concurrent returns across a wide range of active functions to allow this thing to greatly increase your ship's moment-to-moment data output. Now, that's a whole lot of gobbledygook. It basically says, that this thing can do different things on your ship and do them very quickly, right? And efficiently. Now, what I don't know about this is, where this thing goes. It looks like it's a component, right? And I'm assuming, a lot of times people talk about being able to use blades to do different things. But one of the easiest things I think about is obviously something like turret operations, right? That seems to be an easy one. But I don't know. What do you guys think about when people talk about using blades to run their ship per se? What are your feelings or thoughts about that?
I've always, not always, but when I first heard about the AI blades, I was like, maybe I don't have to pilot my ship, or maybe I can, I can use it for turret operation, like you said, or run some kind of navigation stuff, like that ship that had like a crew of eight different people. Maybe a blade can still steer those positions. I wouldn't know, but yeah.
Okay. They're going to show us another device a little bit later that I'm going to show you too. But I just want to get this says it's a booster blade. And I agree. This talks about data transmission. And so I'm not sure what data they're referring to. Are they referring to
hacking?
Well, I've tried to look at this thing, like look at all the angles on it and the sides of it and stuff. And I just don't know. It's component sized, but I don't know. I've tried to also look on the ship, like where something like this would go on a ship. Now, Ken says the Terrapin, which if this is about data transfer on that level for speed and information, okay.
I can see that.
Yep. But again, it talks about computation architecture supports concurrent returns across a wide range of active functions to allow this thing to greatly increase your ship's moment-to-moment data output. So if this thing is shooting out data or information, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I just the only thing I've ever seen. There's one other item I'm going to show you guys later, but I just don't know if this is the thing that ties into what we call.
I think I figured it out. Other than the MSR, you can install it on another ship to be able to play Star Citizen in that ship.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item here. fastcart. Okay, let's talk about this one. This is called the GW9. With more powerful simulation capabilities, the GW9 can identify problems faster than ever before while locating potential issues with an improved margin of error, doing more than saving time on costly repairs. It can save lives. Now, at first I used to think this was the device that we saw in the hospitals, but there may be a variation of that, but this is a diagnostic chart. And I've wondered whether this is going to be something, Kalrati, that is actually being used in engineering. Something that helps you figure out where the problems are with your systems, a component that's wearing down or has failed, and you can quickly get that information from here. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that would be an interesting thought, given that we have generally, at least they talked about the three hats of engineering. We don't have much information with regards to the tuning for the as it has to do with the engineer that Thorsten had talked about. But it could be one of those tools that they'll actually integrate into the game to allow us to be able to properly diagnose whatever may be occurring, especially for those really large ships where you have many different relays, all over the place, particularly but especially during combat scenarios where they have to really diagnose as quickly as possible, or even have multiple people diagnosing at different points of the state of the ship, so depending, of course, how it's designed.
Stop for a second, Jade. You're saying the G9 is for medical, huh? Are you sure it's this particular one? I know they have. That's why I said they have a variation of this in the hospitals, but you're saying this one is for medical? Because what's throwing me off about the reason why I know they've got those other ones that are in the hospital, but they say specifically about repairs on this. And I'm not equating repairs to medical. Or is it just, or is it just something goofy about the description?
Tissue, yeah. I mean, they can use the word repair for medical. Just yeah.
So anatomical repairs then.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting.
saving time on costly repairs. That sounds mechanical to me.
I agree. Yeah,
but
you can go either way.
then it says it can save lives.
Save lives.
So that's why I thought it was like, being able to repair something mechanical that people don't get killed. But Jade is saying,
or maybe it's for repairing like an artificial limb, like Recco or eyes, or like Twitch.
Again, when I opened this up, I mentioned that there is a variation of this in the hospitals. When you go in, they do have this medical cart that's there. I just thought this was maybe something that was more about repairing a ship. And I'll default to that, Jade, because we do know that we do see them in the hospital. We have not seen these quote unquote in ships. We do have repair stations. Or not repair stations, but engineering stations in the ships. So yeah, I'll default to that if that is the same thing. It looks different than what's down in the frontline store, but we do know that there are things like that in the hospital to be used to help people. Tricorders are used by doctors and engineers. That's true, but there is an engineering tricorder and there is a science tricorder. So like, again, there may be a medical one, there may be one for engineering. So we'll see. But anyway, you guys can go down to the Frontline store, check it out, look at it, see what you think, because this is stuff that CIG has had out for a long time, and they keep it out. Yeah, which tells me that this is something that is going to be coming in the game. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. Fastcart, we'll give you that one if you could read it. I know it's kind of small.
No, I got it. I picked Crypto Key. There is no time for guesswork when it comes to getting your system back online and running. The Crosslink 3 rep Dateline with a pinpoint response TAC can not only provide faster access, it can do it without interrupting vital Slack stack flows. That's a whole lot of good again.
Yeah. So you cannot keep your Bitcoin on this. That's what this, not what this is for. Is your crypto key. Okay, it's not for your Bitcoin.
No, Dogecoin.
Your Dogecoin. Keep your Dogecoin on here. You guys,
Doge.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we're in a testing environment, it's very difficult sometimes to remember that much of what CIG gives us is to proof of concept, to see how things work. And sometimes it's very easy to think that when we get something, that's the way it's going to be. Some of you will remember that in the early days of when we got the crypto keys, there were different versions of the crypto key. There was one that was very reliable, high without worrying about it failing too much, but it also cost more in credits. There was one that was somewhere in the middle of reliability. And then there was one that was much cheaper, but it had a greater possibility of failure. It didn't mean it always failed. Sometimes you use it, it didn't fail at all. But there'd be other times if you were trying to use it, you'd have to reset it 2, 3, 4 times in the process. And CIG kind of has moved out of that now and given us, these certain keys. Do you guys see these being useful in other ways? Because there is a mission, the Black Kite mission, is one of the missions in game where you have to find a crypto key on the reclaimer, and you have to use it on the ship. I won't say where or anything else like that. But there really aren't very many other times. I mean, we have to use them for when we do the satellite missions, right? To shut down satellites. What are some other applications for something like crypto key? Is it information passing? What do you guys think? Access to things?
So
relay. I don't know.
As reputation becomes more and more permanent, I would say, right? Your affiliation with different factions. Mm-hmm. I often thought currently, if you have a crime stat, you can use a crypto key and wipe your status clean. Mm-hmm. But as reputation and affiliation with different NPC organizations and those things become more solidified, I've been thinking that these kinds of crypto keys can be used to temporarily mask your identity. Be it, currently we don't know how they are going to be measuring or scanning your affiliation with, say, UEE. If you are in UEE space, maybe it's Obi, right? But if you were to go to Korea Station and you're in Pyro, let's say perhaps the crypto key can be used to temporarily mask your negative affiliation with E. May have a couple hours until it runs out, until the broadcast across Stanton says, hey.
So like, I remember in the Star Wars movies, they would have a ship where they could go in and they change the ID on the ship so that they could get in, making it think it was an Empire ship when it was really the Rebellion, right? Because they don't do visual checks. These are checks that are done by scanning and information is transmitted, right? So the crypto key could be used for masking, like you said, right? Gomab mentions in here about, encrypting and decrypting, which is another factor for it. Passing on money in a way that doesn't get tracked, because we mentioned earlier about we talked about the Mobiglass being a way for the UEE we know they're going to be checking with your transmissions.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're doing black market sales, maybe there's a way to transfer credits on a crypto key, right? That's a way of putting hard cash in someone's hand versus wondering whether or not they're going to actually pay you later, right? There are a lot of other applications that we could see crypto keys come out. Interestingly enough, the Ice Pick back in the day was a much more reliable key. I don't know if that's because it came from the Apple Store compared to the ones you bought in Grimhex, but this key usually responded much better than the other keys that you would buy. At least for me, it did. It always seemed like it worked better. And I'm curious as to whether or not that's going to be a factor still, whether the type of key you have, can determine its accuracy or how well it works. Hacking is another thing too. Encoding, dropping a virus someplace, your land claims, information about your land property, things like that could possibly go on. What would we use a USB for now, but beyond that, or listening to your music, fastcart.
Give me a Ripper, please. Let me just mask myself.
The Ripper? Yeah, you're on the Ripper? Yeah. Okay. All right. Plenty of ideas for that. Music. Okay. That's the Ice Pick. Let's move on. Let's see, Kalrati, that's for you. The pool table. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, the Moran. Whether you're reviewing quarterly financials, analyzing a structural plan, or coordinating strategic movement, the Moran is about storing information or sharing information in real time in the real world. The latest model introduces a new level of interactivity thanks to its multi-user focus that provides your team the tools they need for productive discussions. Hang a flare.
Yeah. Why don't you tell people about that?
Yeah, sure. So I can't remember when. It was 2014, 15, a little bit more also. We were given the opportunity to buy, I think it was 3 of these, and each of them had different stations. There was Port Olisar, and there were, I think it was Icarus Station, and one other one. And so you'd put
Icarus, Port Olisar. What was the other one? Icarus, Port O, and what was the one where old girl was? What was the chick's name? Fastcart.
Tessa. Tessa Bannister.
Yeah, was that Icarus where she was? ICC. Yeah, thank you, Jade.
I was gonna say ICC. Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, there were different nodes across your hangar, and you had the option of placing that holo-table there. Depending on which holo-tables you had, it would auto generate a hologram showing the stations. It was pretty cool. Yeah. I think we still have it pretty much. It's just about us being able to use it.
Right. Now the holo-table is going to be something. As you mentioned, the use of it is much bigger than that. As you mentioned, it talked about showing financials, structural plans, coordinating strategic movement. This is designed so that you're supposed to be able to do some things at it. We don't know how that's all going to be manipulated. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe, for example, you take your crypto key, Kalrati, you plug it into the table, and you can see the layout of an underground facility. You know what I mean? That pops up a hologram, right? Or a landing zone, fastcart, or the deck layout on a certain type of ship, right? Where a prisoner is. There's a lot of things that these tables could be used for, and I'm hoping that they do make them, because they're beyond eye candy, right? One of the reasons why you buy these, and these are designed not just for hangar flare, but many of the items that CIG is showing you are things that you're supposed to be able to use on your ships too. So keep that in mind. And I don't know where that space will be where you would put your holo-table. Maybe you do have to move the pool table out, fastcart, to get your holo-table in.
No, you'd have to move out the piano, Griffin.
The piano's not going anywhere. The piano's staying.
That's what I'm saying.
But it'll be interesting to see, how some of these items are able to be brought in and used both, like you said, in your hangar, Kalrati, or put on board your ship. Did you get any of these fastcart? Did you get any of the holo-tables when they came out, or did you skip them?
I got one. I got a couple for free when I was a subscriber.
Okay.
Yeah, they came out 2017, 2016. It's been
Yeah.
a while. So yeah, but since we lost access to our hangar, I've been able to access them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, they're a cool item. They're cool. They're a cool for hanger item. Okay, here's another one that we saw once way back when. Fastcart, why don't you read that one?
A large holo projector. Making holograms that look great in perfect conditions is easy. Designing a projecting system with smoother motion and increased depth of view that can be visible in real-world conditions with this kind of clarity was nothing short of a technological marvel.
Now, I don't think we've seen an example of this working in the world other than. Did you see it? Did you ever see it? Were you going to see something, Fastcart?
Yeah, you're probably going to say what.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, Squadron 42 trailer where they had the person falling on the ground.
Yep, exactly. That's the time that we have seen it. And we've seen some other holo projections. The other one when the admiral or the captain on the ship is talking to the guy, when Mark Hamill's sitting in the room with him, we see a holo projection take place there. The question becomes, and it looks like this is something that's wall mounted in some form, at least this particular one does. So it'll be interesting to see whether this is another form of communication. Right now, you can talk to people on your MFDs. I'd be curious to see whether or not at some point in the future, they come up with something like that. Yeah, Jay, the greeter at New Babbage, absolutely, in the spaceport is a hologram. We don't see where it's being projected. It's coming from the underneath, and that could be the exact same thing, right? It's just laying on the ground, projecting upward. We've got a couple other small ones. The one also in R-Corp, going into the R-Corp admin building. There's one there as well.
IE, no, it's IE Invictus.
Invictus.
The ship there, yeah, the large thing when you go up the elevator.
And Invictus. Oh, that thing. Yes. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see if how these are implemented in game, and if there's something that we can do something with, or whether it's just the fact that they are there to be used for like things like Jade mentioned, the tour guide at New Babbage, things of that nature. But that's the holo projector. Okay. Next up, this is the one that I think is interesting here that I wanted to talk about, because when we were talking about blades earlier, Kalrati, why don't you go ahead and read that one?
Sure. The Octa-core Avionics, featuring unlocked next-run process. Latest Microtech avionics platforms push the boundaries of performance flight and can handle the advanced computational needs of the modern vehicle being manufactured today.
Now, I don't know if this. I've just been trying to figure out what this is and what it's used for.
Yeah, talk about gobbledygook again.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a lot of stuff there, and of course I understand why, because they're leaving room to make it do whatever they want it to do. They just know that it does have something to do with avionics, with flight. Okay, and I'm not completely.
Maybe it makes computational for quantum travel faster or easier. I don't know.
Could be.
So there was one thought that came to mind as I was reading. We know that control surfaces are, and that's going to be really important when you're flying ships in atmosphere.
Yeah.
Perhaps what if something like this were damaged? How would your control surfaces be affected?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to flying.
Yeah.
So let's say someone hits you with an EMP. This actually gets affected. What's going to happen? You may fall out of the sky, or your control systems may be affected in some way.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, Jay, to your point, it could be the jump point with the nav computer, because it's avionics. Again, there's so much stuff that CIG has dropped in relation to navigating, particularly when it comes down to going through jump points. Nav computers, being able to navigate through them. The equipment that you're going to need, the components in order to do it. And again, the reason why I'm asking is because the subject about AI and blades and things being able to control ships, but at the same time, CIG has made it clear that they don't want the technology to supersede the capability of players. They want players to have a little bit more edge, but the technology should be able to help or assist in some form. And so
maybe this thing will help you use less fuel when you're traveling.
I don't know. Avionics is usually a little bit more involved with that, with controlling the ship, or controlling the whatever your vehicle that you're in for flight. I don't know.
Yeah, Go Map just said it. Yeah.
It's interesting. We'll have to see. But again, we're just showing you guys this stuff because this is what's out there for the tech that we will be able to in some way or other use as part of our gameplay and enriching our gameplay, much deeper gameplay than just getting in and pushing the R button and taking off. It's going to be a little bit more involved in that. Okay. That's the Opticore Avionics. This one is what I'm going to talk about because many of you have seen this and laugh about it, but you can laugh all the way to the bank because you're going to be wearing one too. It's called the Optimus 6 Spec. Information is only useful if you can access it when it is most needed. From hospitals to boardrooms, the Optiviz provides new ways to access the data you need most when you need it with an embedded invisible liquid display. So what is this? This is basically allowing you to see information. And you know, I guess right now, the way we do it right now is we're wearing a helmet. We get a helmet, we get our information that pops up. Here they're saying this could be used for a variety of things. They mentioned boardrooms. I guess if you want to be able to look at stock or whatever commodities are going for, or whether you want to be able to using it for medical purposes, information is needed to do surgery or putting a limb on somebody. I mean, we're stretching it here, but that's what this is basically implying, that this device could be used for a variety of different tasks in the game. Those of you who reached concierge level got one of these for free. And CIG has made it very clear that quite often things that they give us are not just always cosmetic, but they're also there to have a purpose in the game. So I'm hoping that all of you people running around with a top hat and a monocle, that monocle just becomes something more than just a monocle, that it's something that actually has gameplay value and feature value in the game. Kalrati, do you have a monocle? Do you own one of these Optimus 6s?
I do, and I long since forgot that it actually has potential use to it. So you reminded me.
You didn't give it away, huh?
No, I still have. It makes a lot of sense though, because for example, in like a medical, let's say you are in the heat of battle and you are a medic. It may not be, you know, this specific thing, but you know, you don't want to be standing, pulling out your Moby glass and trying to diagnose the person, right? You want to have your hands free, being able to use your eyes, your optics, to potentially diagnose what's actually occurring on the battlefield, so that in case something happens, you're not stuck in your Moby glass trying to figure out what's actually occurring. So things like these, being able to read and collect the data, maybe in a less detailed way, but something that could still assist get the job done, could be useful for those kinds of scenarios.
Or maybe you could just look over someone's shoulder from a long distance and see what the type on the mobile glass. You know, it could have nefarious uses too.
It's interesting.
Exactly.
I mean, they mentioned a variety of things here. I'm sure they could do whatever they want to with it. You know, right now we just kind of associate it. We think of a monocle and the top hat, and we just think of it as being, you know, we use it as our logo for snobs, but obviously it's got more gameplay value than that, which I'm glad. I'm glad that it has some gameplay value, and it's not just hopefully it won't just be a cosmic item in the game. Okay, let's move on to this next one. And Fastcart, you referenced this one earlier. The Reverie AR lenses, approved by the EHS for extended wear. The innovative Crystal Flex material developed for the Reverie prevents their user fatigue and eye irritation, while its incorporated display constantly adjusts to your ocular needs throughout the day. If you guys go to the Frontline store and look at these, you actually see that they're contact lenses, but they spin. You'll see them moving. And as Fastcart mentioned earlier, these are also, you see these in Twitch Pacheco's eyes. When you're talking to her, they do the same thing. You know, AR is interesting that they're talking about incorporating that into the game. And, you know, the store sells these. So the question is whether this will be something for us to be able to purchase and use, and for what purpose? What do we need to see augmented reality for? Do you guys have any ideas of things that might be worth seeing augmented reality?
I think Kalrati mentioned it before, like, you know, not needing a helmet to see a UI display.
Okay. I think that's cool. Any other ideas about augmented reality? I'm thinking about mapping in some form, if necessary. You know, if they're programmed out to guide you somewhere, you know what I'm saying? You guys have seen like when people, I don't want to even use stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh, but you know, they'll do stuff and put stuff out there that you can't see normally, you know, that you know to go to a certain place. So if you're using augmented lenses, you can find a location or something that maybe without them, you wouldn't be able to see where something is. I'm just trying to figure out other ways that they can incorporate their use. Geocaches. Okay. Yeah. Actual map overlaid on a location. Yep.
Oh, that'll work.
Navigation. Yep. Pokemon Go. Thank you, Kim. Yep. Pokemon Go. What's it? No, what's the penguin called? We'll call that Go. What's his name?
Pico.
Yeah, Pico Go. We'll do Pico Go. Yeah.
Pico Go.
Yeah.
Or the Narwhal.
Heat signatures. Yeah, heat signatures. That's good, Go Mob. Heat signatures. Yeah, there could be a lot of different things for it. God, my watch started talking. But yeah, you know, it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. The Reverie AR lenses. Okay.
Or, you know, maybe you can go old school and like you have these AR lens on, and whenever you walk by someone, the name will pop up over their head like an old school game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Name or information too. Yeah.
Yeah, my AI's rising up, Jade. Something triggered my watch and made it start yapping. I don't know. It's telling me to move on. Is what it's telling me. Okay, this is an oldie but goodie. The Muse Simpod. Fastcart, could you read that one?
Muse Simpod. To faithfully recreate another world, we have revolutionized our projectors, create a colorful density more vibrant and images more detailed to create an immersive experience never before seen in a Simpod.
Okay. Now we're going to put you all in the time machine. Back in the day, way back in the day, when we only had the hanger module, we had a Simpod. It wasn't this one. It looked like it, but we had a Simpod in the hangar. And when you loaded into the game and you went into the hangar, you would have your ships in there, but you had this Simpod. And the way you used to get into Arena Commander was you could get inside the Simpod and then you could launch Arena Commander. Now, back then, that's all we saw it as, that it was just there as a way to get into Arena Commander. But we have come to find out, and this is one of the cool things about CIG. Sometimes they pull the curtain back only partially while they're developing, but then later the curtain comes back further and we find out that later on the Simpod is designed or was intended to be something that you could have either in your hab, your residence, or on your ship. And the idea of it is that it is also used as a place of training. Remember how we were talking about earlier how the Mobi-Glass was supposed to be designed to integrate real world in the game world? So the website is designed out with apps and all this stuff. Your Mobi-Glass is designed with apps. Fastcart talked about how Jax was able to broadcast using his Mobi-Glass. Okay, the Simpod is going to be tied into what we do now in Arena Commander, so that if you want to practice with friends, if your org wants to do stuff, you would get into your Simpods in game and have simulations. And that way you could do things in the game without worrying about getting crime stats and all that other stuff. But now you're doing it within the game, not outside of the menu, having to log into Arena Commander, blah, 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 blah. They want you to be able to train and do things within a Simpod. And it's not probably, Fastcart, not just going to be for doing combat simulations, but we could also see how a device like this could be used for vehicle training, tank training. You know what I'm saying? It could expand beyond flight.
Training, like for how to fly together with other people.
Yeah, well, I said outside of flight. I'm saying it could be for vehicles or other things too. Who knows if this becomes another version to a certain degree of a holodeck, you know, or some type of VR space that you can do other forms of training in, which we'll find out. But basically, that's why these are for sale. You can be able to get this and have this thing, purchase it and install it in some other location, and you'll be able to use it.
Now, I'll say one thing.
Sure.
I've seen other games have game within a game. Like Final Fantasy like to have game within a game, but I've never seen anything with this to this detail or to this level.
Yeah.
Outside of Star
an actual physical item like that that's kind of dedicated to it, which is pretty cool. Kalrati, did you ever monkey around in the old Simpod back in the day?
Oh, always. This is how I learned. And what's really nice I was trying to look back, but it happened this year. It was either in the monthly report or the Squadron 42 monthly report, where they did mention that they have the sim pod in the single player, where you can utilize it and go into either a virtual for training and such. So I was trying to find the exact one that mentioned it, but I think it's already, at least in the single player level, it's already being utilized and tested for that purpose.
Yep.
So it's really nice to see it actually coming into the game and being blended in the game space, and hopefully eventually in the PU side as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and last but not least, our final item here, the Strata Holosphere. Let's see, you rely on accurate data to analyze situations and make critical decisions. That's why we overhauled the Strata to make interfacing with our Holosphere as intuitive as possible under even the most severe conditions, so you can keep your focus on what matters. We've seen these Holospheres in the Frontline store downstairs in the basement, but I wonder, and Kalrati, fastcart, you guys give me your thoughts. Is this going to be the similar device that we see on ships like the Carrack and other ships that have a central display? Now, the reason why I'm asking is this. When you look at those like on the Carrack, I think the Carrack has one. There's a couple, I can't think of the other ships that have this. They're showing space. They're showing 3D space on theirs, right? But when you go, the 600i, thank you. But when you go when you go down to the store, this actually comes up as a hologram. Like, it's not like that blue line grid thing. It actually looks like a planet when you look at it, 3D model of a planet. And even though I know that the stuff that's on the 600 and the Carrack are earlier tech, I get that. But I am curious as to whether or not this 3D look, this actual looks like you can reach out and touch it look, will be what we have on our ships, more than what looks like just lines and dots. I'm hoping that it's at this level of detail. And then my question becomes, is this something that's obviously it's installable, right? I mean, is this what we're going to see that people can put on their ship, or maybe in their base? I don't know.
I would say maybe you come out with a rudimentary one that's installed on your ship, like a really basic one, but you can upgrade it to something like a higher quality, higher fidelity, and maybe make it interactable, so you can just put your hand on it and control where it goes and what it does.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if my GPU and CPU are ready to be fried, sure. Because even the holographic Reddit texture, as we know, eats up our resistor resources.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I would love to see something like this.
Yeah, I mean,
actually be a thing, you know?
This thing is, I mean, seriously, if you guys haven't gone down there and looked at this, I mean, that's my difference. I mean, go up and look at it. You see the ridges of the terrain and everything on this. It's not just light. It's almost a 3D model that's hovering there. And to your point, Kalrati, if they're able to pull this off so that when you pull up a moon or whatever it is, a ground facility or whatever, with the level of fidelity that they have here, that's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, by the way, we've been saying front line. It's factory line. That's what you happen to
Thank you, factory line. Thank you for that correction. I told you I couldn't remember what it was called. I just knew it was an F in the front of it. Jeez, okay, thank you.
I know it's line, so yeah.
Yeah, factory line. Thank you. So yeah, you guys go down to the factory line store. If you haven't been there in a while, take a good look at that. But I am curious to see, what's going to happen with the Strata Holosphere. And they talk about the fact that they've upgraded it. So maybe this is, like you said, fastcart, maybe this is the second generation of what we currently have on the ships. You might be right on point with that. Okay, well, that is it for the tech that we're going to talk to you guys about, and the AI and all that cool stuff. We covered a lot of ground tonight, a ton of ground, in fact, about this. But the future of AI, let me close off this talking with fastcart and Kalrati about one of the subject before we wrap up, because we're going to be right on the top of the clock here. What are your feelings about, much anticipated is quanta, right? Quantum. Quanta and quantum. Um, yeah, well, quantum is the bigger picture of it, and quanta are the things that walk around. In patch 3.20, you guys are going to see that AI are responding differently than they were previously. Yesterday, I live on R-Corp. I came out of my hab and came downstairs. And some of you guys know that there's a bug in the PTU right now where if you sling a rifle over your shoulder, the rifle, instead of pointing up and down on your back, it actually points forward. Okay. Now, this is what happened, Kalrati. Guy in front of me comes running out of the building. And you know how when you come out of area 18, there's that food stand right there?
Yeah.
There was the vendor and two people buying food. When he ran past them and looked at them, they raised their hands up and screamed and cowered.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Which has not happened before. They reacted.
Yeah.
And they cowered and did like this. And then finally he took off running, and then they kind of got themselves together again.
This is how the AI uprising starts.
Yes, that's how it starts. That's how it all begins, right? So, this is obviously the beginning steps of the reactions and things like that. And I don't know if there's anything else. I haven't been in the patch long enough to see what else is going on, but CIG has told us that this was coming. For people who played Cyberpunk, that was in the game, but it was also very frustrating because that's all they did was cower. Like when someone started shooting, nobody ran, nobody responded, nobody retaliated. And we know we want AI to be much more responsive than just, hiding behind a counter. We want to see a little bit more from them. What do you guys think as far as where we are? Do you think that we're starting to see the beginnings of the whole quantum aspects coming into the game?
I said, hopefully. I haven't been in PTU. Hopefully.
Okay.
So I'm definitely crossing my fingers, especially with regards to the slight but still noticeable economy changes within the stations. We are seeing much more. Well, not much more, but we are seeing not only scrap and waste anymore, but there are more commodities. So I know that they are working towards the integration of quantum, and I remember my project supervisor told me once that a simulation is only as good as the system that is connected to it. So who knows? The simulation could be running, but they have to put up all of these tags in the game, either in missions, economy, and the services, to be able to make use of the data in quantum. And we are seeing that gradually come online, and as a result, it'll be really, it's highly anticipated to be able to see the results of quanta coming into the game and having some kind of impact on the economy, on missions, and all those things eventually. Yeah. So we're getting there. I'm confident.
Yeah.
So that's all a longer way of saying hopefully.
Well, I'm saying that this is beyond hope though, because we're seeing something change actually in the game now. And we know that for the last couple of years, Tony and them have been working on bringing AI up to a new level or a new tier. And so I'm curious to see if there's more in here now, because this thing was something that was, in fact, guys, I don't plug Salty Mike too much, but Salty Mike put out a video today called 10 Things in 3.20 that they didn't tell you about. And it's good. And this thing I just mentioned to you was not one of the things he mentioned. There are things in this patch. And we always say this, Fastcart. People always say, 3.20 doesn't have nothing in it. Then the patch comes out and people are like, oh, wow, there's a lot of stuff in here. There's stuff in this patch.
Every single time.
There's stuff in this patch, guys, that's not in the patch notes. So take a look at his video, take a look around in the game. But that thing with reactions was not listed anywhere. And so that's why I'm asking, in fact, to your point, Kalrati, maybe CIG is slowly starting to creep this stuff in, right? And testing it out, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm hoping that the whole AI NPC thing starts to step up its game. Because when I was where was I at last night? Oh, I was at Seraphim Station with Vaverick.
Right.
And all the AI, guys, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it looked like it was populated. And what I mean by that is that the AI were moving around and doing things in a different way the place looked alive. That's a better way of saying it. I'm not talking about they were just moving around, but it looked alive. And there were quite a few, I'd probably say there were at least 8 or 9 AI walking between where the kiosks are in that lobby that were doing things, moving, checking their watch, their Mobi, whatever. You know what I mean? It felt alive. So that's why I'm wondering whether there's a little bit more going on than what's been going on in relation to the NPCs and AI in the game. So we'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys being here today with us. Don't forget that we have Soul Citizens merchandise. I'm going to say this plug anyway, because if you're coming to CitizenCon, we would love for you to get a piece of merchandise so that we can see you and you say, hey, he's got a Soul Citizen shirt on or a hat on, or walking around with a mouse pad. I don't know. There's plenty of merchandise there.
All right.
So, yeah, check out our page when you guys get a chance. I do want to ask another favor. Yes. Mm-hmm.
We do have a couple of questions. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, we do? Oh, no. Let's go to the questions first, and then I'll come back to our thing. We're at 202. Wow. Guys, we're at $2,220. We are $5.
Okay.
So we're $30 away from our low target of $250. We can get that other $30, guys. We can make our $2,250. Someone, I know you guys can give us that $30 tonight. Go ahead, Fastcart. What we got for questions?
So for the first one from Gomab, will the AI blade include a trade-off for ship performance when implemented? Will there be a trade-off to include using a blade? I think the trade-off is an AI blade won't be as good as a person. I think that's the trade-off.
Yeah, I agree with you, Fastcart. My thing about a blade, Gomab, is like I always picture a blade. Like let's say that me, Fastcart, and Kalrati are out on a mission, and something happens where Fastcart gets immobilized or he's hurt, and he no longer can man a turret. Then I have the option to place a blade in to replace that starboard turret until we get wherever we're going. I don't lose that turret. It gives me at least some defenses. It may not be as good as Fastcart was, but it's enough there so that that side of my ship is no longer vulnerable. So I always see blades as being something that can step in to fill in, but not so I'm at a level of dependency where it becomes my complete like co-pilot. Or complete, like I don't even want to think about getting a player. Now there may be some people who are satisfied with the performance of the blade, but that performance to me is still going to be maybe a little bit less than if there's a human factor involved. But that's my 2 cents.
What I'm hoping for is the different levels of blade, different tiers of blade. Like you can buy a cheapo blade that won't be as good as a person, but maybe you can go spend all the money on a blade and almost as good as a person. I don't know.
Yeah, there could be different tiers. I think that's a good idea, Fastcart. Having different ones that you're willing, how much money, it's like any component, right? Any component you want to play for Class D, Class A, Class B, it's a matter of what your money provides, which would be a better way to do it, right?
Are you going to get a low tier Samsung, or are you going to get the flagship Samsung?
Yeah.
You never know.
Well, your low tier one may satisfy you just for what you need for right then, right? Versus the person who does want a better performance. They're willing to pay more money, but they're also paying a lot more in risk if something happens and they lose that ship. These are another component.
LTI would not cover it.
No, it's another component that gets lost like anything else, right? So yeah, the tiering of that would be pretty cool. What else we got, FC?
This is from Admiral Kuchinagi. We've been talking about the advantages of using coming technology in our ship and in our characters. What about tech that distort and cancel those? Your eye tech makes you blind for a few minutes, or your ship displays a fake asteroid or not a ship. I think you talk about hacking, right?
No, he's talking. I think if I understood him correctly, he's saying what happens if it malfunctions. Yeah, Kalrati, go ahead and talk about that. Like, what are some, like, we know that wear, for example, is something that happens with components. What are some things that could happen with our technology that could, work against us?
Yeah, that's a really interesting and fun idea, because we know that over long periods of time, if you don't seek to not only repair the material or physical aspect, but change out the electronic components of those things, then the AI blades or whatever that's driven by or uses, or affects the computations, they're going to wear out. So just like Admiral said, some really cool ideas. Perhaps when you're actually doing some kind of scan in a really dark area or in a really dark side of space, it picks up something, some kind of anomaly, but it's not actually there. And when you're actually trying to go through and navigate through these asteroids, it doesn't pick up an anomaly. You know how it's always saying alert or something right in front of you. It doesn't say that, and you just crash in.
Yeah.
Stuff. Right. So that could be a very interesting aspect with regards to malfunctioning. And I see it as something that's very, very viable.
Well, how about this, Kalrati? How about you get a torque imbalance pop up when there really isn't a torque imbalance? No, you get what I'm saying? I'm just saying you could get bad readings for things, right? And so, you're flying and the thing tells you, or it tells you that your fuel is almost out, but it's actually the component has worn down, right? You haven't replaced it. So this kind of, once again, drives economy, says to yourself that I know when I buy an Intrepid cooler, that this sucker lasts about 8 jumps. After 8 jumps, this thing starts to wear on me. Or, there's something that tells me this thing is now at 40% performance level, then I need to go get a new one. This drives the reasons for why we need to make money, the economy, sales, everything, right? Ultimately, so that you just can't put something in your ship and once it's in there, it's at 100% performance, peak performance all the time.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay. Anything else, Fastcart?
Nope, that's it.
That's it. Okay, cool. All righty. Well, thank you guys again for your time and your participation. We are at $2,220. We're $30 short. 30 short. Come on, 30 before we close out. You guys can give us that extra 30. 3 people can give 10. 6 people can give 5. Fastcart can give 30. We'll figure it out.
I can't.
Okay. Fastcart, why don't you talk about what's going on Thursday?
Thursday, we have Soul Talk. We talk Star Citizen, remember to the community. We talk about what's going on this week in Star Citizen. But the most important part is you gang get to come in and talk with me and talk with us about what's going on. It's mostly a free-form discussion. But yeah, we cover what's going on with ISC and Star Citizen Live and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UTC.
Kalrati, you got Saturday?
Yeah, sure. So this is the first Saturday that I'm talking about where my out. So Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, Soul Voices, where we talk about a whole lot of things from the community. We pull from Spectrum, we pull from Reddit, we pull from all over, and we actually have a really fruitful discussion. Everyone is invited to come and join in, give their opinions, discuss. We have some really cool questions, and yeah, come on in. Let's discuss and share our thoughts.
Okay. And next...
Pick me up in 15 minutes.
What, Bob?
I said, Kit, pick me up in 15 minutes.
Oh, God. Okay. Fastcart, you got to quit going back to this old stuff that half our audience don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Okay. All right. Last but not least, next Sunday, our show that we're going to be doing is called Update 3.20. As you guys know, 3.20 went out to the community, waves 1 and 2. A lot of bugs in there, but a lot of good stuff in there. And we are hoping and praying that within the next week or so, everybody will have their hands on 3.20. A lot of good stuff in there. And we really want to be able to share with you guys our thoughts about this. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people were saying in the beginning, oh, there's nothing in 3.20. There's nothing really there. We can tell you, gang, yes, there is a lot of stuff there. And hats out to Eva Cotty. A lot of people didn't think that 3.20 was going to come out anytime soon. People were saying to me like, oh, is it going to come out for CitizenCon? I'm like, no, it's going to come out before CitizenCon because they got to do Q4 still. So it's important that they get this patch out. And it's important that you guys get in there and test, especially master modes. Okay, I know the whole C and stuff looks great. And don't get me wrong, there's some issues with the whole C in relation to the docking procedures. But you guys really need to get in there and check out master modes. It's part of the new flight mode system. And it's a big adjustment. There are a lot of new keystrokes. R does not work anymore for flight ready, y'all. Alt R.
That's my hit again. Oh, come on.
That's my hit for today. You got to do Alt R. Cruise C does not work anymore. You have to do Alt C. There's all types of stuff in there that is changed up with keystrokes. Those of you who got your joysticks, y'all gonna be pulling y'all hair out because you got to reprogram. But I'm telling you now, keybinds are different and everything. So when you get the opportunity to get in there and check that stuff out, do it because it'll be well worth it. So hopefully you guys will be here next week. 3.2.0. Maybe we'll be on point X1 or something. I don't know. We'll see. But the updates are going to be coming, hopefully. But thank you to Eva Cotty for all the work you guys have done, because you guys have helped expedite getting us out so we can all play the game that we enjoy. Okay. Other than that, I think that's it. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Don't forget to be here on Thursday with fastcart, Saturday with me, and next week, I don't know who's going to be here, but we'll be here to talk about 3.20. We are going to send you guys over to Kelsar Prime. When you get over to Kelsar, give him a shout. Let him know that you came from the Soul Citizens. As we always tell you guys each week, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and as always, peace, love, and soul. See you guys later. Take care. Bye.
Peace.
Hasta la vista, baby.
All right.